Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new webinar. Today, we will introduce you to the new features of the latest ntopng 6.0 that we released beginning this month, sorry. This year, we had our ntop conference, ntop conf 2023. And we celebrated 25 years of ntop. And especially we celebrated 25 years since the first ntopng release. Actually, the name was ntop at that time, released in 1998. It was probably the first web-based traffic analyzer. A few years later, we decided to rewrite it from scratch because it was based on old technologies, let's say. So we decided to rewrite it and base it on C++, Lua scripting, JavaScript, let's say. Most of our products are open source. They are all available on GitHub. So if you go on github.com/ntop, you can take a look at all the products. So you probably know that we do network monitoring, so I don't want to bother you with this. So let's start with the presentation. As first topic, we want to show you what are the new features that we introduced in ntopng 6.0, especially in the user interface. So the main feature that we introduced in the user interface is the new dashboard. The new dashboard has been completely rewritten from scratch. In fact, this is now fully based on Vue.js. We are moving all the ntopng components and pages for the UI to Vue.js because it's really a nice framework, really flexible and easy to write the code and deliver a lot of flexibility. And this new dashboard has been completely rewritten, both the UI side, the user interface side, and the backend, with the aim to deliver a dashboard which is flexible. Flexible means that this is customizable, first of all. In fact, now we have a different dashboard for each ntopng model, for instance, or depending also the ntopng configuration. For instance, if you enable the flow dump to the database, you see in the dashboard appearing new components where you can see some historical data, for instance. And of course, I said customizable because you can customize it. So I will show you how to change the dashboard with the content you need. So this engine provides you basic components like the badges that you see at the top of the dashboard, the time series chart that you see in the middle, tables that you see at the bottom, donuts, a lot of components. And we also provide a lot of data sources using our REST API that you can use in combination with the graphical components. So you can build this dashboard using those components and build the dashboard that you like. So as I said, we created this new dashboard with new components, and we also rewrote some of the graphical components that we had in ntopng and created new ones, including, for instance, the time series chart. Now, for instance, it's possible to create charts containing multiple metrics, and you can compare different metrics in the same charts or using different charts in the same page. And you can use this in the dashboard, but you find these also in other places in ntopng. And you can do comparison in the same time interval or in different time intervals. So this provides high flexibility in analyzing the data. The same engine that we developed and designed for the new dashboard has been used also to create a new reports page. In this new page, as you can see at the top left, you can select what is the template for the report. So you can have multiple templates. And again, we created a default template, but you can write your own template. So you can put the information that you need in the report and look at the data that you want. You can select the time interval, of course, so you can check a report containing traffic information for the last hour, day, month, whatever, any arbitrary time interval. And we added new actions, the ability to store a report, for instance, or reload it or print the report. But I want to show you this in a demo. Before jumping to the demo, another feature that we added to the reports is the ability to generate periodic reports. With the periodic reports, ntopng can generate, for instance, every night a report with the traffic information of the day before and send you an email with a link to jump directly to the report. So when you wake up in the morning, you can take a look at what happened the day before with all the traffic information. Now let me jump to ntopng to show you how it works. So first of all, when you open ntopng, this is the main page that you see, the first page that you see, the dashboard. So here you have information about alerts engaged, number of local active hosts, and number of active communications, so active flows. Here you see the traffic on the interfaces that you're monitoring, and you have some other information like the hosts which are generating more traffic, local or contacted remote hosts. In this case, this is analyzing the local box. So you see that there is a bunch of local hosts exchanging data, but this is not contacting any remote host, which is expected. You see the top applications used by this machine, in this case, or by your network. And in this case, I enabled the ClickHouse support to dump the historical data. So we can see also here additional components showing you the top local hosts 1 week ago that we can compare with the top local hosts today to see if there is any difference in the behavior of the network, or the same for the remote hosts. But again, here you can add all the information that you prefer. Traffic classification, for instance, or the server ports analysis. So we see the active ports in our network, how much data they use, and the application protocol related to that port. So this dashboard is the default dashboard for, in this case, the Enterprise Excel, where you have, again, ClickHouse enabled. If you have a different model with different configurations, you will see a different dashboard. And again, you can customize it. So you can add the information that you want. Most of the information that you see in ntopng, you can add them here. Now, as I said, we also created the new reports page. So let's jump to the traffic report. So this is the default report that we have in ntopng. As you can see here, I created another template showing different data. And we also have a vulnerability scan report that we will see later today in this webinar. Here we have information like for the last day, for instance, information about the top categories, applications, protocols, top local hosts, remote hosts, top hosts acting as a client or as a server, networks, autonomous systems, countries, traffic on the interface, the top alerted hosts, a lot of useful information. But you can extend this report because it's fully customizable. Now, let me show you the new action buttons that we added here also. So here you have the ability to, after selecting a time interval and selecting a report, you have the ability to save this. You can select a name like my report and save it. This is saved into the server running ntopng. So if you want tomorrow, you want to take a look at the same report, you go here and open the report. And here you can sort the reports and select, for instance, the report that I just stored here and open it. Now let's come back to the current traffic report. If I want, another option is to download it to my PC, to my MacBook in this case. So I can click here. This report is downloaded. Sorry, is downloaded, as you can see here, in JSON format. What I can do is I can store this report locally, and tomorrow I can reload it using the user interface. So I can click here, upload, and move this JSON file. So this will reload my report in ntopng. So you have two options for storing the reports: storing that in the server running ntopng or storing that locally. The other feature is the print. So here we render the report, which is optimized to be printed on an A4, for instance, paper. As I said, in addition to this, you can also have periodic reports automatically generated by ntopng. In order to enable that, you go to Settings, Preferences, Reports, and you enable the daily reports generation. And you can also set data retention for the reports because they are automatically generated and stored into ntopng. So at some point, you want to delete the old reports. So you can configure that here. Now you want to get notified about the reports. So you can go to Alerts, Notification. For instance, you can configure an email endpoint. So you go here, select email, you configure your SMTP server, and then use this for creating a new recipient, which is sending you the emails. In this case, I created this report email recipient where I specified my email endpoint, my email address, and I specified that I want to get traffic reports to this email address. So what happens is that overnight you receive an email like this. So this is the email actually that I received last night. And I can click here, sorry, and jump to the report for the last day. Okay, I think that's everything about reports also. Let me move to the next topic, the monitoring data. As you probably know, ntopng is integrated with ClickHouse. ClickHouse is the database that we use, is the database that we use for dumping raw data, I mean flow data. And usually you will run ClickHouse on the same box where you run ntopng. So you run ClickHouse as a single instance, standalone. And you configure ntopng with -f ClickHouse to connect to the local instance of ClickHouse and dump the data. This allows you to analyze, for instance, historical flows for the last days, weeks, or months. We have seen that ClickHouse is really optimized, both in terms of performance and in terms of compression rate. So with a small disk, you can keep really a lot of data. But if you want to really scale up to 100 gigabits, for instance, and you need a lot of capacity or performance, or you want redundancy, you can deploy a ClickHouse cluster. And in the last release 6.0 of ntopng, we had the support for the ClickHouse clustering. In the latest ntopng, we also introduced support for smart recording. If you're familiar with traffic recording, I mean packet recording, you probably know ntodisk, which is our tool that we use to implement the continuous recording. So we continuously record packets to disk. In ntopng, you can configure the ntodisk integration and drill down from charts, alerts, whatever in ntopng, and get the pickup data matching a network event, for instance. Now, the problem is that at high rate, the data retention that you have in ntodisk, even if you use a large disk array, it's usually too small. 10 gigabit with, let's say, a good disk array, you usually are able to store the last few hours. At 100 gigabit, probably less than 1 hour. So if you want to analyze an event that happened yesterday or even 1 week ago, you probably will not find the data because it has been already overwritten to make room for the new data. So we implemented the smart recording. To make it short, with the smart recording, we move to a second level storage, the pickup data, which is matching security events or other network events generated by ntopng or by Surigata, for instance. This way, the data retention for the whole data maybe a few hours, but the data retention for the events, for the pickup data matching network events can be much higher because, I mean, you're recording just the packets matching the event. So you can, with a small storage, you can get a lot of data. On the capture side, we created a new product, which is ntop. ntop can be used in case you need to capture packets, but you are not able to mirror locally the packets and you need like a remote tap. So with this product, you can mirror a remote destination. You can install this, it's a software, so you can install it on a device, even a small device like a Raspberry, on a remote location and configure ntop to deliver a copy of the traffic to a remote collector, let's say, where you have ntopng and probe or Surigata or any other monitoring tool running. This is really optimized because it's optimized in bandwidth utilization, let's say, because it aggregates packets, compressed packets, and it's also delivering encrypted traffic. So it's also a secure tool. Okay, now we will show you the new features about the traffic analysis and flow analysis. Matteo will take care of this. Thank you. Matteo, please.
Hello everyone, can you hear me and can you see the
Yes.
slide? Okay,
Yes.
okay, great. Hello everyone. So, like Alfredo said, I'm going to talk about analysis. In the last ntopng version, the 6.0, we developed a lot of new features regarding analysis and a lot of new ways to possibly find issues inside your network. So let's start with the flow analysis. Regarding the flow analysis, we have new aggregation and why did we develop this? Because while using a ClickHouse, we have a lot of data, okay? Many times we have tons of giga and so on. So in order to have more history and more flows about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, we decided to aggregate all those flows into, we called an hourly flows table. In this way, we reduce a lot the disk usage of ClickHouse, of the historical flows of ClickHouse. For instance, you can see a small screenshot on the right side of the slide showing, for example, a 1 gigabit site we have. And for instance, we have 1 month of data with 100 gigabit used from the standard flows table. And instead, by using the aggregated one, we have 600 megabit. This is a huge reducement of the disk usage. It is possible to switch between the normal view of the historical site, so the normal ClickHouse page we used and the hourly one, from a small switch button on the left upper part of the screen of the ntopng page, and we are going to take a look at it in a few moments. And as you can see, for instance, you can see the number of aggregated flows we have. So let's switch to ntopng. So, like usual, we are talking about ClickHouse and historical data, so we have to switch to the flows historical page. And from here, you can see the switch I was talking about. Here we have the hourly switch. So from the standard table, we can, by clicking here, switch to the aggregated one. And for instance, we can see data, um, 11 flows, for instance, in this case, aggregated in a single entry of the table. In this way, we reduce a lot the disk usage. Again, by talking about flow analysis, we even developed a new way of grouping, of aggregating again the data, the flows. In this case, but we talk about live flows, because many times with a lot of flows, it was a bit tricky to find problematic flows or problematic communications. In this way, you can simply find and understand if there is something wrong with a couple of communication, because there are many ways, many different aggregation you can do from the live flows, and possibly find the issues in the live flows. Again, by switching to the ntop, we just need to jump to the live flows page, the standard one, and by clicking on the analysis tab, you see, for instance, all the flows aggregated by different information. For instance, here we have the aggregation by client, server, and destination port. But if we click on this entry, we can switch the way we aggregate the live flows. For instance, we want to see the client, server, and application, that is the standard one. For instance, we can see that these two client and server, these two hosts, are talking by using HTTP in 16 different flows. So this is another way to see, is to simplify the visualization of data, of the live flows data. Now, instead, let's talk about traffic analysis. Now, let me switch the view of the slides. Okay, and here we have. Okay, so we have the slides on the right part of the screen and the ntop on the left part. Now, in the live page, in the live flows page, we added even new information about communication. For instance, whenever you have a Zoom or Microsoft Teams communication, now we are able to detect the different types of communication. If it is a video call, or it is just an audio call. Okay, so we are able even to differentiate between those type of communications we have. Um, Regarding again the traffic analysis, we have many new features. We have, for instance, the host flow analysis. Host flow analysis, that it is a really important feature to understand who is talking with whom. We have many ways to understand that in ntopng. However, we decided to develop this in order to have a better view of the network itself. To access, for example, to the double host flow analysis, you just need to jump to the host, and by clicking on this simple icon, host flows, we are able to see the communication that Devil is currently doing. This is really great because we are able to understand pretty much all the communication this host Devil is doing, with whom and with which protocol it is doing. Mm. Obviously, the huge the communication, the more data is exchanged. Now, we have even another way to understand the communication, because we are still talking about traffic analysis. So we have other ways of understanding if everything in our network is all right. And one of these features is the server port analysis feature. By using the server port analysis, we are able to understand um, which ports are currently used in our network. So let's jump to the server ports analysis. There is both the table view and the chart view. Mm, I personally prefer the chart view. And from here, it is possible to see, for instance, that um, in case of my network that I have no VLANs, we are currently using them mostly as flow traffic towards port S343. So this is a great way to understand if you have, for instance, open ports that you shouldn't have, or if everyone is talking correctly on the ports they should. We have even developed another feature that Nicola is going to talk to you about later, still regarding the open ports and changes about ports. Another important feature we decided to enhance is the service and periodicity map. We already have had these two maps, mainly used one to understand the local services and one to understand the periodic traffic we have in a network. However, we decided to enhance those two maps because previously they could just have few flows. If I don't quite remember, it should be around 500 flows. In the last version, we decided to develop and enhance this feature by putting around 2 or 3,000 of flows displayed on the page. Now, in this case, I have a few flows. However, we really enhanced it with a lot of filters and possibility to filter out and understand if the service or the periodic flow you have in that network, in your network, is right or not. Still talking about the maps, we have developed even the new asset map. Okay, the asset map is still in the maps tab, so in the analysis tab, and as you can see, it can be accessed from here. And the asset map is really important to understand the asset in your networks, because many times, mostly in huge networks, we have tons of for asset we talk about we mean NTP server, DNS server, and those types of servers. And in huge networks, many times we have tons of these type of server, this type of assets. And one thing that it is simply done in a huge network is a simple attack where a host disclaims himself as, for example, a DNS server or an NTP server. By using the asset map, it is possible to visualize all the assets you have in the network. For instance, here we can see different server we have. For example, the devil, because as you can see from the arrow, the traffic is from the 2.31 to devil. This host is, for example, an NTP server. But we can change the view, for example, to the DNS server to understand if, for instance, this host is right or this one it is not. And this goes for DNS, IMAP, NTP, POP, and SMTP. One other important feature regarding the traffic analysis and it's the first time we decided to introduce this kind of feature in ntopng. Feature about no more active hosts. Usually we in ntopng we have live data and historical data, historical flows. For the first time with inactive local host, we decided to add the possibility to not just see the currently active host, local host we have in a network, but even the local hosts that are no more active in the network. This is really interesting from a point of view of analyzing the data and analyzing the host of your network. To access the inactive localhost, simply access the host page and switch to the inactive localhost page. For instance, here you can see, for example, the IP no more active on the network, with which MAC addresses they access the network, the manufacturer, and other information about really important to uh, then analyze and understand if that host no more being on the network is okay or not. For instance, if we see some host that shouldn't be there, so that shouldn't be connected to the network, we can simply jump to the historical flow to understand that host what did in that period of time it was active. Lastly, we developed the traffic behavior. The traffic behavior is another feature really important to understand if everything is all right in the network or not. As you can see, let me zoom this slide. As you can see from this slide, we have a chart with bounds. Okay, we have a single information, the traffic Rx, with upper and lower bounds. Let me switch again to ntopng. To access the traffic behavior is part of the historical data of ntopng. So we have this data in the historical charts. Let me switch to the behavior traffic Rx and let's put 6 hours. Okay. As you can see here from this page, there is this simple time series with two bounds, lower and upper. This is really interesting because we use an algorithm that is able to understand by analyzing the the traffic that usually that host, that interface does, um, and try to understand if the current traffic done by this interface is okay with its standard traffic. For instance, if we zoom in here, you can see that the traffic is lower than the usual traffic done by the host. Because probably if we zoom out, we are going to see a standard usage of the traffic Rx and Tx. So in this way, you can understand if there is something wrong with the usage of the traffic, in this case, of your interface or of the host traffic in the case of the host. Currently, this feature is available just for interfaces and host, but being really interesting to understand the behavior of that host or that interface, we are planning even on adding it to autonomous systems and other metrics. So now we are going to talk about active scanning, and Nicolo is going to present the active scanning.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nicolo.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so in ntopng, we have decided to complement.
Nicola, sorry, we are
Yeah.
seeing the Teams meeting. You are
Oh,
not
sorry.
sharing this slides.
Just a second. I'll try again. All right. Okay. Now?
Again,
okay?
okay. No. Now we can see these slides.
Okay, good. Well, in ntopng, we have decided to complement passive traffic with active scanning because we decided we want to identify the vulnerabilities, the CVEs, the known as common vulnerabilities and exposures, and discover also the open ports of local hosts that can assist network and security administrators in implementing an healthy network. So in order to do that, we introduced the vulnerability scan tool. So at the moment, with the vulnerability scan, we can, with ntopng, make manual or automatic scan using the GUI, and obviously discover open ports, TCP, UDP, and so on, and soon also the operating systems information and services. After the vulnerability scan execution, is also possible, how we can see later with a little demo, the last scan report and download it. Currently, our vulnerability scanner tools are implemented with nmap and bullscan, but more modules will become available. So let's see the demo. All right. Can you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the overview page of the vulnerability scan feature. And in this page, you can see all of the actual hosts configured to be scanned. To configure a new one, just click on plus icon. Then the user has to insert here the IP or the host name. In my case, I will put this one. Then I will choose this CIDR, and then if the user wants, can also select the ports to analyze, to scan. But in my case, I will go with the TCP port scan, like a scan type, to dynamically and automatically discover the open ports. So talking about the possibly scan types, in my case, I just running ntopng on my MacBook. So with macOS, I just have CVE, TCP port scan, and vulners. But if you use Ubuntu, you can have also the UDP port scan. So I'll select TCP port scan, and the periodicity I will leave disabled. The periodicity is an option that that enable ntopng to perform periodic and automatically scan every night or every week. So let's click on add, and there is my new host that in a few seconds will start to scan. And in this moment is scheduled, but in a minute, my ntopng will put into scanning status and just wait for the nmap tool to finish the scan. In the meantime, I will show you more pages and more info that we can discover from this page. So in the actions menu, we can find many buttons to use, like the edit host one, that can be used to set up more information and change, for example, the post that I want to analyze to discover my CV, scan to discover my CV, and change periodicity and so on. There's also the schedule scan to perform the single scan on the single entry that I selected in this moment. Then there's the download last scan report here. And here is the nmap result downloaded into my PC, into my Mac. And there's also the possibility to jump to the show last scan report page to see always the nmap result. And finally, there's the delete button to delete the entry. After that, in this page, we have also 3 buttons at the end of the page, at the bottom. The delete all button to delete all of the entries, the schedule all scans button to run the execution of all of the scans configured, all of the hosts at the moment. And there's also the batch edit button to change the scan frequency for all of the hosts configured. So, for example, I will put nightly here, update all, and that's the result. All of the hosts are going to be scanned this night at midnight. And here, always on this page, is possible to jump just clicking on the IP address of the single entry to the vulnerability scan report page. Okay, let's now talk about the alerts that can be triggered by the vulnerability scan feature. So here is this vulnerability scan alerts triggered. In my case, this happens when after 2 execution of vulnerability scan, and ntopng discovered that on the second one, this port on this host is now closed. And these changes is detected by ntopng using the vulnerability scan and then trigger this alert. And otherwise, in this case, these 2 ports are now closed differently on this host. That's the devil one. Okay. After this page, there's also the charts page to see and to display. So many time series that we have for the vulnerability scan data, like the time series for the scanned hosts, the time series for the CVs detected, and for the open ports, etc. Then there's the open ports page where is showed an overview, a view of the aggregated vulnerability scan results by the port detected like open. So in this case, I have on port 22, the TCP port 22, one host, the devil one. And if I click on show hosts here, I can jump back to the overview page, but this time is filtered for with the port 22. Right, go back there. Okay. Now I want to talk to you about the report that mentioned before Alfredo. This report is like a summary of the overview page of the vulnerability scan. And in this case, we can see all of the details that we have from all of the vulnerability scan executions. For example, in this case, the first IP address 192.168.1.1, as at the moment the TCP UDP ports open just 4 of them, 53, 8, 443, and etc. And the CVEs detected are 9 at the last scan execution that was at a quarter to 12. And here is the CVE list. It's important to see that in the CVE list are indicated the CVE ID and the score. And in the column of the score, there's the maximum of them. So 7.8 in this case. Always in this page, there's also other reports. The TCP ports is an aggregation of the overview page just based on the port TCP. The UDP ports in my case is empty because I don't have my ntopng is not running on Ubuntu. And also there's the CVEs report. From here, we can jump also to the, for example, here to the always candidates report page and go back there. There's another things that I want to talk about. And this is the icons, the ghost, the phantom, and the filter. In my case, they're just the phantom. So the phantoms icons means that these ports detected by Nmap for ntopng using the classic passive monitoring are not open at the moment, are not used, are not. There's no traffic through that port on this server. And to verify it, we can just jump to this host link, and then we can, for example, jump here to the laptop icon link to open the host details page, then jump to ports, and we can see that these two port 300 and 3000, 5000 are not present here for the ntopng classic passive monitoring. And that's a little description of this feature. You can find other information and other recaps of all of it said here in the ntopng guide and the vulnerability scan page. There's two last things that I want to talk about and regards the configuration that we set here for the vulnerability scan. And you can find here into preferences, then under vulnerability scan. These two preferences are used to increase or decrease the performance. So the first one, we can increase the maximum concurrent vulnerability scans number. By default is 4. The minimum value is 1. The maximum value is 16. And there's also another preferences to decrease the aggression level of the vulnerability scan and just enable the slow mode. And I think that's it for the vulnerability. Let's jump back to the slide. And yeah, now I will talk about the programmability. On ntopng, in this new version, we introduced the OpenAPI page with the list of all of our REST API that we expose to the users, to the developers. And they'll also be used with the Python API. And that's it. Now I think, Luca, it's your turn. Please.
Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's now talk about OT monitoring. That is one of the features that we have introduced in the latest part of the 5 release. In this new version, we have added the support for some other protocols. Sorry, Luca, I see a black screen actually. I don't know the others. Just sharing my screen. Let's do it again. Can you see it now? Yes. Okay, let's leave it without zooming. So in the latest version, we have added the new protocols, in particular Modbus TCP, that is added to ntopng, both for understanding what is happening on the network and also for triggering alerts. Alerts are based on behavior. So in essence, we monitor the behavior of a connection. And in case something goes wrong, in particular errors, or when the connection misbehaves with respect to the past, we trigger alert. Misbehaving means that with Modbus or with other OT protocols, in essence, they're doing a loop, so they repeat continuously over time a certain number of steps. And so we map this step through the learning period. And when the steps are not respected with respect to the past, then we trigger an alert. In addition to that, NDPI, that is the library on top of which our tools are working on, support many other protocols, and we are adding some more in the latest release. This week, thanks to our partner Ambient, that is an Italian company that has been active in the OT monitoring for a very long time, we have started a project. So if you happen to be in Germany, Nuremberg, you can see this week at the expo the products. We are trying to merge IT and OT cybersecurity. Because the problem is that there are many companies that are very vertical, so either IT or OT, and instead the aim of this collaboration is to merge them and to exploit the tools we have developed over the years in order to fulfill the need of many users that need to understand not just a part of the picture, but the complete picture. Now let's jump to the future. So one of the things that we have been thinking for a very long time is the concept of the cloud. When people think about the cloud, they usually consider the cloud as a way to deploy your application, on somebody else's machines over the internet, and that you put everything there, you pay per service. We thought about this for a very long time, but we believe that this is not yet, our time for that, because we think that before eventually considering that, it is time to implement something a little bit different that can help our users a lot. So today I want to highlight the strategy that we are currently working on and that will be released in the coming months. So as everybody using your tool knows, our tools are traditionally standalone. So in essence, you deploy it on a machine, and to this machine, you see whatever it happens. But if you have many tools deployed, every tool does not speak each other. So in essence, you can tell Nprobe, for instance, to send data to ntopng, but nothing more than that. Instead, we have heard many times people complaining that we don't provide a central console, meaning that a place where they can see all their instances, they can see if they're up or down, if they somehow are disconnected, try to understand why, to manage the licenses, usual things that you do with a console, either on the web or on a mobile phone. And we somehow agree with them that this is a big problem. Other complaints are coming from managed service provider or service provider in general that would like to have a way to deploy our tools on their system to meter their usage and to understand what is happening, so that supervise, let's say, the activity of the users, so that they can upsell additional monitoring services to their customer. So in essence, one of the problems that we acknowledge that we have in our tool is that for years we have focused on features, so adding a new thing here, a new thing there, but we somehow didn't think or pay much attention to usability. Usability in a modern term, where you have companies with users that are staying at home, some others stay in the office, and you don't understand the big picture, or if you are a company that resell monitoring services, you don't see what your customers are doing, so you would like to understand what is happening at their premises and alert them when something is wrong. So in essence, we want to merge all these things together and provide something a little bit different. So for this reason, we are creating the ntop cloud. What is that? In essence, it's a way to pivot services. So the ntop cloud here, as you can see, is something that will be hosted on our premises, so that you can decide whether you want to join or not. So it is not compulsory. It is not something that it will happen to everybody, but it's really up to you if you want to be part of the cloud or not. So in essence, if you want to keep your instance isolated, or if you want to stay on your instance that they can speak to ntop cloud. When you speak with the cloud, your data will not go to ntop cloud. So it means that the monitoring data will stay local. Okay, so this is very important. We will not see what you're doing, but everything will stay at your premises as today. The main difference here will be that through to the cloud, it's possible, for instance, to monitor these instances, to understand the status, to report alerts to user, because in this case we map instances to users. And when this happens, we can alert people in case something goes wrong. Or if you want to be, let's say, independent from ntop, one of the things that we have in mind is we plan to deploy these tools at your premises. So in essence, we give you the ability of running your own cloud. So in essence, you choose a different entry point to the clouds that instead of being the ntop one that we keep alive, is something that you will monitor. So in this case, you will be totally independent. The main thing that we also introduce will be the cloud console. So it means that you will have, through a web browser, the ability of talking with the cloud and interacting with the instance remotely, regardless of the network topology. This is very important. So if you are behind an app, behind a firewall, or behind, let's say, some sort of protection, and as long as the instances are able to talk with the internet, they will be able to talk each other. So the fact that they will speak each other is also very important for your instances, because, for instance, one of the features that we can implement is the ability of backup the configuration to the cloud, so you can reinstall the machine. Or, for instance, the ability of simplifying the deployment. So think, for instance, that nprobe is sending flows to ntopng. So you have to make sure that the 0NQ port is the same, that the communication is done properly. So you can supervise that by creating a sort of configuration from the cloud and pushing it to the remote instances. In particular, this is very important for Windows machines where people are not really customized with this type of low-level configuration that instead the user of Linux are able to do. So in essence, the cloud for us is a pivot. So it's a way to interconnect applications, okay? So every application will have a unique ID. Every application instance, will have a unique ID that is possible to administer, manage, and provision independently. So everything will happen from the cloud. So we are a little bit paranoid about security because, we are analyzing this problem for years, and we think that we need to be a bit safe. Okay, so that's why we have all the communication will be based on TLS. So everything will be, let's say, secure from the communication and standpoint. And also the communication that will happen inside TLS will be end-to-end encrypted. So it means that every user will have the ability of encrypting its own data, and only the user will be able to say that. So let's make an example. So suppose that in the cloud that we run, there is user A and user B. User A has various instances of ntopng and probe and to disk, and the same for user B. So if for some reason user B is able to circumvent the security and find out how to reach the communicate with the instances of user A, these instances will receive the traffic, but will not able to understand the traffic because every user will encrypt the traffic with its own private key. So more or less the same thing that it happens with WhatsApp, where the communication are end-to-end encrypted. And we don't plan, at least in the near future, to store any customer data on the cloud. Okay, everything will stay local, so we don't plan to send flows to the cloud. These type of things at the moment are not on the table. So what we want to keep at the cloud is the configuration, the ability of supervise the instances, to alert people in case something goes wrong, and also to make sure that the application speak each other, because this is very important. Suppose, for instance, that you have, let's say, a distributed company, okay, with various entry points. And you understand that at a certain link, you will see that there is something bad happening. So a host, in essence, is creating trouble. So it's attacking your network. So through the cloud, it's possible to alert all the other instances of the same company and to say, okay, this host will be part of the new blacklist because we have learned that is attacking, let's say, Europe, and maybe soon it will attack the American counterpart of the ntopng instances monitoring the internet. So in essence, this is the idea, to let application communicate, to create a baseline for simplifying licensing,
and for simplifying communication across the instances. But as we said, we plan to have our own cloud, okay? But at the same time, so in case you want to have your own private cloud, we provide the tools so that you can run your own. So in essence, you are able to do what I've described just on your side, deploying the instances on your computer, so without talking with ntop at all. Let's make expose some use cases. So the first of all is the central web console. So in essence, you supervise from a central point all your instances. You see when they are up and down, how much time they are spent, doing certain things. The usual monitoring. Very simple. And then you can receive alerts whenever one of those instances goes down and whenever there is a problem to your instances. Okay, very simple. So just to understand, the business continuity or not. Another another use case is the ability for instances to communicate over the same network. Okay, as I said, we implement in a secure way, and to share information. A typical example is information about blacklisted host. So in essence, to report everybody that there is something bad happening from this public IP address or from this host that is running inside our network, so they can speak. Another possibility is to store and backup the configuration files on the cloud, not the data, the configuration files, so the ntopng.conf and prop.conf, this type of files, so that if you reinstall the machine, you can restore them immediately. And also, this will be also a great help, in particular for software containers where they are very dynamic and they don't have to be reconfigured, by hand. And also, in addition to standard licenses that we have today, we want to implement not just permanent, but per service license. So it means that you will pay per use. So whenever you use a certain tool, you say, let's say €1 per day per instance, and that's it. So if you don't use it, you don't pay. Very simple model. And in the future, the idea, therefore, is to interconnect applications together through the cloud. So for instance, in this case, you will have various and probe instances that are talking with a central ntopng. They will all be provisioned and configured through the central cloud, so you can supervise the activities and you can attach, probes running as standalone instances that can monitor, for instance, a mirror link, or that can monitor individual computers. All will be provisioned and, let's say, self-configured through the cloud, because in this case, the application will be able to speak each other, and we simplify this way the configuration file that today is a manual procedure. As of the roadmap, by the end of this month, we'll introduce the first cloud features. We are already developing them, so we have already integrated the part of them into our tools. At the beginning of the year, we want to introduce the web console, and therefore start operating the cloud. So in early 2024, in essence, the ntop cloud will start to be available. It will be, let's say, in alpha beta for some time, and it will be in the dev branch of our tools. So in essence, no stable, it will be on the dev. We'll invite people to join the cloud, to test it, to report problems. And if everything goes well, we plan to integrate them in the next stable release that is planned at the end of the second quarter of 2024, so around May-June timeframe. We will not add an additional cost, so this is the idea. So it will not be an add-on, but it will be a possibility. So it means that if you join the ntop cloud, you will be able to receive more services from us, but at the same time, we will not ask to access your data. That is very important. Your data will stay local. Again, real cloud is probably something that we'll consider implemented with some partners, but definitely not today. It's not on the table. We provide an SDK for creating private clouds that are not operated by ntop. Okay. And whenever you will start an instance, we plan to put the cloud support on all our tools. You will be able to decide whether you want to join the cloud or not. So if you want to run the application completely standalone as today, if you want to run your own cloud using our tools, or if you want to exploit the ntop cloud so you don't have to do anything because everything is done by us. So in essence, we see several advantages. We don't see disadvantages. And this one will pave the way to future communications, because one of the things that we have been developing since more than 1 year is the concept of blacklist. So we have seen that the blacklist, we have written also a paper on that is on our blog, are very regional. So the fact that you have a blacklist from a leading company does not mean that the blacklist is effective for your network. So this will be easy to implement with the cloud, whereas today, where every instance is independent, is kind of complicated. So this is more or less the idea, and a short roadmap for the future. That brings us to the end of our webinar. So we would like now to hear your comments to understand if you have some feedbacks. I have seen that there are already some questions on the chat, so we have answered during this webinar. But if somebody wants to talk, can raise the hand, and we can open the microphone. Any questions you would like to ask or put on the chat? So it looks like the presentation was